Physics aptitude tests at the University of Oxford can be scary. But don't worry, we are here to help you out. So let's get started with an example question from 2007. All you need to do in this question is to find the ratio of the areas of the shaded regions. Now, this seems straightforward initially, but then you realize they haven't given you any sort of dimensions, apart from the fact that this is an equilateral triangle. Oh well, looks like this is more than enough. Let's have a crack at it. For all the geniuses out there, I recommend that you pause the video and try and solve this question first before seeing the solution. Now, we know that there are more than one way to do this, but the method that I'm going to share with you today is probably the best one. So hopefully you've got a solution. If not, let's see how to do it. Since they have been so kind to us and they haven't given us any sort of parameters, we will go ahead and do this for them. Now obviously use the most logical ones to you. For me, the first logical one was to define the area of the larger shaded area, also known as AL, and the area of the smaller shaded area, known as AS. The next thing we know that this is an equilateral triangle. So the properties of an equilateral triangle are that each of the angles are 60 degrees and each of the lengths are L. The next thing we can do is connect the vertex of the edges of the triangle to find the center point. This will eventually help me to find the height of the triangle. So this ultimately breaks down the 60 degrees into 30 degrees, and we can also define our heights as h1 and h2. Clearly from this diagram we can see that the overall height of the triangle is h, which is the sum of h1 and h2. From this little triangle here, we can use trig functions to help us define h1 and h2. So we can find the sine of 30 and the cos of 30 and the known length of the triangle as L to help us. Moving on, we now have h1, h2 and the overall height. So we can easily calculate the area of the triangle as half base times height. The next thing that we need to spot is that AL, or the area of the larger shaded region, can be found by subtracting the area of the larger circle and the area of the triangle, all divided by 3. Luckily, from our previous findings of h1, we can see that h1 is actually the radius of the larger circle. This helps us a lot. The same thinking can be used to find the area of the smaller shaded region. This is shown as we have basically covered the most difficult part of the question. All we need to do now is find the ratio of AL to AS. This simply breaks down to algebra. Unfortunately, from this step onwards, most of the students can easily go wrong, either because they're rushing into it or simply not thinking about their algebraic manipulations. The equation will end up looking something a bit like this. It looks a bit complicated, but when you look closely into it, you can see that things such as L squared can easily cancel out, and we end up with an equation with only numbers and pi's. With some further manipulations, we end up getting the answer of the ratio as 4 pi minus 3 root 3 divided by 3 root 3 minus pi. We really hope you found this video helpful. we will be covering other entrance exam questions from all across the world. If you want us to cover any specific exam or a question, please let us know in the comments below.